What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Premier League Week 10. Been coming a long way. But yes, time to talk about this weekend. So, quite a few games going on that were very highly anticipated, really looking forward to. Some of them played out really well, some of them were maybe a bit boring. So, let's get right into it. First of all, we have the very first game of the weekend, probably the most anticipated game of the weekend, and that is, of course, Man U versus Spurs. At Old Trafford, Man U managed to pick up the 1-0 win, and it is a great result for them, but at the same time, the performance that went along with it wasn't that great. Kind of similar to the draw against Liverpool a couple weeks ago, except in that one, it was very clear they were playing for a tie. In this one, they really were giving it their all, but just couldn't really get the job done. And it wasn't until Martial came off the bench in the second half, which generally he's a pretty good sub coming off the bench. But it wasn't until he came on that they actually started looking a lot more dangerous. They did have a few good chances at first, and so did Tottenham, but neither of them looked like they were about to break the deadlock. Most of their chances were either long range or never really made it all the way. Cut off at the very end. So for Man U, I'll say, like I said, good result, but the fact that Lukaku is looking a lot less dangerous these days is a worrying sign that he is kind of the same striker that a lot of people were saying. The one that can't get the job done in big games. He didn't score against Liverpool, didn't score against Tottenham. He's not scoring in these big games when they need him to. He's scoring in the games when it's like it's already 2-0 and he's scoring the third goal. So kind of a mixed bag for them, but I will say I think the result will probably be a bit more than I think the performance for most of the fans. But going forward will make, I guess, a bigger impact on what that means for their season. As far as Tottenham are concerned, though, I mean, it's kind of concerning that they can't get the job done without Harry Kane. Get knocked out by West Ham in the League Cup midweek, and now can hardly register a chance against Man U, who, honestly, I mean, their defense isn't that great. We saw last week Huddersfield managed to get behind Matic, and once you're at their defense, it's not a great defense. Bailly, yes, he's very physical, yes, he's very fast, and honestly will beat most players with that, but he's kind of a naive defender. Jones and Spalling are not good defenders, so if you can get at their back line, there's a good chance you'll be able to create a chance or two. But Tottenham just didn't have the creativity, they didn't have the cleverness up top with Kane. Son is a hard worker, but he doesn't have that same ability that Kane does, and it showed. So kind of a worrying performance for both teams, but Man U will definitely take the win because they needed it after the past two results. Then we get into the next time slot. First game to talk about, West Brom versus Man City. Probably the first sign this season. Obviously, the draw against Everton was not a good result, but it just kind of seemed like a blip in the road at the time because they were winning so easily in other games. This is the first sign that there is a chink in the Man City armor. The game against Chelsea was the first time I was like, there's going to be the first stumbling block. It didn't happen. Burnley was the second one. Typically a team they slip up against. It didn't happen. West Brom, not normally a team they slip up against. West Brom is a team that generally does do well against the top teams, but this year they haven't been looking good. Man City normally takes care of them very easily. 2-3, I mean, it's pretty close. And it was one of those situations where Man City got the goal, but then West Brom immediately equalized. And yes, Man City did eventually get a second and then a third, and West Brom got a second to make it interesting. So Man City was still in control, but conceding 2 goals hasn't been like them this season. They've actually been pretty solid defensively. And on top of that, 3 goals, it's kind of a low number for them. It's typically they're putting in 4 or 5 against a team like West Brom, but this game, for whatever reason, weren't able to get as many goals put in. And, they did control a lot of the game, but still not as clinical as they have been. So, kind of interesting going forward, seeing that sort of, like I said, the first signs of maybe a chink in the armor. Now, obviously, they still get the win. It's away from home, so they're not going to take too many negatives from the fact that they gave 2 goals away. But for West Brom, it'll probably give them a little bit of a confidence booster to say, hey, we got 2 goals against Man City. That's pretty good. So, yeah, not bad from West Brom, not terrible from Man City, but both teams probably not as happy as they probably would have been with certain other results. Getting to the next game, Watford versus Stoke. For me, probably the biggest shock of the weekend, mainly because Watford have been on a tear so far this season. I mean, they've been doing really, really well, pretty much against all odds. Everybody thought they were just going to drop off the face of the earth. But have surprisingly been doing very well, and Stoke started off pretty well, but have been dropping off these past few weeks, and then all of a sudden this week, step up again. Put one in against Watford at their place and managed to hold on to it. A big part of this, though, and this is something I saw from the highlights, is once again Richarlison creating chances, but cannot finish. And that's going to be Watford's biggest thing going forward because they've been finishing pretty well. But now you've got certain players that are not finishing, and then they're not able to get the win. They're not able to hold on, against Chelsea. They're not able to get a goal against Stoke. It's kind of concerning that the goals are drying up a little bit for a couple of their players, and Richarlison is definitely one who has had some clear-cut chances that he's just completely missed. So it'll be interesting going forward to see if that continues, or if maybe this has just been a couple games where they've dropped off a little bit, but now they'll start stepping back up. So we'll see. Another result this weekend that it's not super surprising, but at the same time it's a little bit of a I was kind of expecting one result and the other one came, has to be the Liverpool-Huddersfield result. Obviously, Liverpool should beat Huddersfield at home on their day, but that's typically been the story of Liverpool. They should beat this team, but then they don't. And Huddersfield is a team that, as we saw last weekend, they have the ability to cause one of the top teams to slip up, with their hard work, their constant pressure, their constant work rate. They can beat some of the top teams with that work rate alone. But for whatever reason, it didn't come off for them this week. It was there. I did see a bit of the game. I saw the missed penalty, which was pretty shocking. And so, going into the second half, Huddersfield probably had a lot of energy, but then one little slip up in defense, Sturridge is in, scores, and now all of a sudden it was just a goal riot after that. So I will say that 3-0 is probably a bit more flattering a result for Liverpool than what they deserved based on most of their performance in the first half. But I will say they did deserve the win. Watching them in the second half, they did do a lot better. They did finish their chances a lot better. They'll be hoping that Sturridge can continue to put in the goals. I personally think that he's not the player that's going to get you a ton of goals and win you games when you need him to. I think he's a player that'll do well against a team like Huddersfield because, he's got a lot of pace and he can cause some danger back there for their defense, but I just don't see him as that clinical striker that can win you games on his own. So they'll be glad to have him back fit. Who knows how long that'll last. But obviously they'll be taking a lot of positives away from this, and they did need it. Things have not been looking good at Liverpool, so getting a win here was a much needed result for Jurgen Klopp if he wanted to keep his job. Huddersfield, though, this is a loss against one of the top teams at the top team's place. They're not going to take too many negatives out of it. I do think their performance in the first half was definitely worth some merit. So, next game was pretty crazy. I did get to see the very end of it. I didn't get to see any of the rest of it, just the highlights. But Crystal Palace versus West Ham. So, yeah, this was a pretty intense game. West Ham started off with 2 goals, and it looked like it was going to be another terrible day for Crystal Palace. They managed to get one earlier on in the second half, finally got a goal that wasn't a team with Gary Cahill in the defense. And so things are looking up for them. They're looking a lot more positive. Like I said, I didn't get to see the game, but I assume it was probably typical to what I did see in the past, controlling the game, creating chances, but just not being able to finish. But then the very last second of stoppage time at that, and they managed to get a chance. Zaha does well, beats a defender, and then fires it to the back post and finds it, makes it 2-2. Just craziness. I mean, absolutely insane to see. I mean, when it tuned in, because I was watching it on I was watching NBCSN, and I was watching which one? I think I was watching the West Brom Man City game. So I'm watching it, and then there's just last scenes at Palace versus West Ham, and I see it's 1-2, and I see Palace is attacking, and it's like 20 seconds left. It's like, holy crap, this is their last chance, and then Zaha makes the run in. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's in the box, and Kuyate's not putting in a challenge. What's going to happen? And then seeing him turn, and this is why the Premier League is so great. Like, these are two teams that are irrelevant. Palace will probably be relegated at the end of the season. West Ham will probably be having a new manager soon that'll help get them out of this funk they're in. But both of these teams are kind of irrelevant, but these last few seconds were so freaking exciting. And I don't even care about either team. So, yeah, a lot of fun at the end of it. As far as what it means for both teams, Palace obviously will be wanting to win at home, so this isn't exactly a great result for them, but they will take the draw after getting the last second equalizer. They'll feel like it's a bit of a win. Like we managed to get 2 goals, we managed to pull it back, and we managed to get a draw out of a hopeless situation. They'll be happy with that. But for West Ham, it's not good. This is a game that you should feel confident of winning. They've put together a few decent results, but then a couple bad results here and there kind of put some blights on this season. It's been difficult for them overall. They brought in some good players, some quality players that know the league very well, but they just haven't found that what's the word I'm looking for? The connectivity, the fluidity of a team that working together. Arnautovic and Chicharito are not combining. Zabaleta's not quite got the defense organized. Joe Hart's not got the defense organized. They're still not working together as a team. So all of these players that they've got that have good quality Premier League experience still aren't really working together like they want. So going into this game, these are 3 points that you need. Palace have not looked good all season. They've not been able to score. I mean, yeah, this is a game you expect to go in and just sort of, you get 2 goals, well, you don't have to worry about it. Just be solid defensively. Like I said, Gary Cahill's not in your defense. You should have no problem. So to give away 2 goals and to give away a last-second equalizer will be a kick in the teeth. And for Slaven Bilic, I mean, I haven't heard any reports yet. I assume his job is still being very closely watched. Like I said, last week's result against Brighton was terrible. This is another bad result. So I can't imagine he'll be in the job too much longer. I guess maybe looking at next week, I don't know who they have, but I assume if they either don't get a result or if it's against a top team, if they don't put in a good performance, I assume it'll probably be the last game for Slaven Bilic. It'll be a fight for your job type of situation. So the last game at this time slot, though, Arsenal versus Swansea. Swansea had it. They were up 1-0 at halftime and then gave away 2 goals early on in the second half and gave it away. For Swansea, it's a sign that they are improving. Arsenal still, even though they're having their problems, even though things aren't looking very good for Arsenal, they're still a good team. They still got quality. So getting a goal and then only losing 2-1, it's not a terrible result. You're at the Emirates, so they're not going to look back and say, 2-1, that's a terrible result. But at the same time, the fact that you had the lead and then it's such a quick turnaround, 1-2 back-to-back goals, yeah, that'll be frustrating. That'll be frustrating to see we gave away 2 goals so quickly, so easily. They'll want to stop conceding goals like that so easily. For Arsenal, though, this is a result you expect to get. Swansea, that's a team you should beat at home if you're one of the top teams. So this won't be a great result for them. It'll be a good one. The performance, I didn't get to see it, so I don't really know if they played well or played poor. Who knows? But what I do know is these are games that you have to win, so this one doesn't really matter. Getting this result doesn't matter. It does if you lose, but if you win, it's just kind of like, you should win that one. So not really a great result for them. But for Swansea, not a bad result, but a bit disappointed that they weren't able to hold on. Next and final game on Saturday was Bournemouth versus Chelsea. Obviously for Bournemouth, who have started off very poorly, another loss and at home is not great, even if it is to one of the top teams. You'd be hoping to at least get something out of the game. But their performance was not bad. They are looking much better right now. So the performances have stepped up. Now they just need to start getting the results to justify those performances. Because if it doesn't matter if you're playing well. If you're losing the games that you're playing well in, who cares? But for Chelsea, like I said in my Chelsea review, it's a result you expect to get, and the fact that it's coming so hard for them to score goals right now and to hold off teams, they're letting in so many chances and dangerous chances at that. It's kind of a scary time right now. They are still missing Conte, so that is a factor, but you can't always rely on Conte to get the job done. Yes, he can get the job done by himself, but that can't always be the answer. It can't always be, okay, Conte's in, we've got this. Your other players have got to start stepping up as well. So, good result for Chelsea. Not the best performance, but still okay. Just got to improve. For Bournemouth, good performance, but not the best result. They'll be hoping to get better going forward, get better results. Move on to Sunday. The first game was Brighton versus Southampton. This one kind of had draw written all over it. I expected a 0-0 draw. Ended up being 1-1 draw. Yeah, kind of expected. Brighton trying to fight back. They've had a few good results here and there, but at the same time, they're still not comfortable. So they've got a lot of fighting. They're not one of the best. They're honestly, they're probably the worst of the three recently promoted teams. Newcastle have a lot about them. A lot of good players. They've got Rafa Benitez still as manager, so they've got a lot about them, and I do see them doing okay this season and managing to stay safe. Huddersfield have started off their season very well, put themselves in a comfortable position so far. Obviously, kind of dropped off the past few weeks, but still okay. Brighton started off pretty poorly, finally got a few decent results, but are still not comfortable yet. So I think this will it'll help a little bit, getting a draw against Southampton. They would have preferred the win, I think, though, mainly because at this point you need to start getting wins at home, especially against mid-table or lower sides, because those are where your points are going to come from. You're probably not going to pick points off the top teams, probably not going to pick points away from home. You want to pick up points at home against teams like Southampton. So the fact that they couldn't get 3 will be very disappointing for them. For Southampton, though, it's kind of an performance and an result. Because getting a draw, not bad. Away from home, not bad. But at the same time, their performances so far and their results so far have not been good enough for you to be dropping 2 points. It doesn't matter where you're playing. If you're not picking up 3 points for Southampton, you're not doing well, because it's not good enough. They put themselves in a situation where they haven't been getting the results they need, and so they're kind of in a dangerous situation to where a couple more draws and a couple wins for some other teams, and all of a sudden you're looking at relegation. So neither of these teams really needed a draw. They both needed to get a win, so it's kind of a bad result for both of them. But at the same time, I did kind of expect it. Then we go to the next game and last game on Sunday, Leicester versus Everton. Both teams with new managers, both teams looking to pick up something from this weekend because they both really desperately need it. And Leicester just had the better quality on the day. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Everton still doesn't have the quality striker they need. They still haven't, like I said, they didn't replace Lukaku in the offseason, so that's where they struggle the most. And it shows. They can't manage to get a goal. There you go. So, yeah, it's a great result for Leicester. They'll be glad with this. They'll be hoping to get some momentum out of it as well so they can sort of push themselves back up the table and kind of get themselves out of this funk that they've been in. But Everton, got rid of Ronald Koeman, nothing changed. They played okay against Chelsea in the midweek, but then weekend, back to the same old Everton that we've seen this whole season. So I don't think it was a change of manager that was needed. I honestly think it's just you got to get somebody up top that can score. You've got to do the best you can until January. Try to eke out some results. Try to hope Rooney can score a couple goals for you and your defense can hold on. But, like this shows, it wasn't the manager, I don't think. I honestly think they just did not do their job in the summer. They didn't get a striker to replace Lukaku, and it shows. They haven't been able to get the goals like they have the past couple seasons. Then the final result, the game today, Burnley versus Newcastle. Another game that I thought had draw written all over it, but Burnley managed to rewrite the script today and managed to get a goal to put them ahead of Newcastle. So, yeah, it's not an unexpected result overall, I guess. Like I said, I did expect a draw, But at the same time, if a team was going to get the win, I would suspect Burnley is going to do it. Just because they started off the season a lot better. Newcastle have looked like a pretty good team so far. They've had their off weeks, but they've had some good weeks as well. But Burnley's just a difficult team to play against. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. They're always going to be tough customers. So the fact that they managed to get the win doesn't really fully surprise me. But at the same time, Newcastle will be a bit disappointed that they couldn't manage to get a goal today. Even if it was a loss, you still want to think, all right, let's try to get a goal out of this, because you get yourself a goal on the road, it shows that you're doing something right. It shows that you've got the striking capabilities. But, it didn't come off for him. Managed to not really do much outside of defend for most of the game, and it did take one moment for Burnley to get that goal. But I don't know, for both teams, it's two teams that are comfortable right now and don't really need to get wins right now. So both of them will sort of take some positives out of it. Both of them probably won't be too upset with the games today. But at the same time, you'll be hoping, if you're Newcastle, that this doesn't become a habit. That next week, bounce back from this result, come back with a win, and this weekend doesn't matter. So yeah, that's about it for this weekend. Another exciting week in the Premier League. Some crazy results, some not so crazy results. Some teams that are slipping, some teams that are struggling, and then some teams that are just comfortable. So yeah, it's always a lot of fun. It's always so exciting to see what's going to happen every week in the Premier League, and that's why I love it so much. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, or your thoughts on this weekend. Which teams do you think have the best and the worst weekends? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Premier League weekend reviews. I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.